It's Bloodleaf time. We are on chapter 24, page 229. The next morning, I found Kate in the rocking chair next to her bedroom window, humming a sad, pretty lullaby in time to the in and out motions of her needle as she rocked. She paused to hold up her project, a lovely little dress, to admire. "Not bad," she said. To her belly, she added, "What do you think, my girl?" I knocked softly on the doorframe to let her know I was there. "With all the flower dresses you've made, what will your baby wear if it's a boy?" "Flower dresses, of course," Kate said, smiling widely. "A baby doesn't care what it wears, and I've put too much work into them not to use them. Besides, I'd never want my boy to grow up thinking he couldn't love flowers." She pointed her needle at me. "But still, she's a girl, and until she's born, no one will be able to tell me otherwise." "What does Nathaniel think of the prospect?" Her smile dimmed. "I haven't told him." Carefully, I asked, "How bad is it, really?" "Bad. I made Diedrich's costume. How could I not? It was a simple design, and he paid quite a lot for it. But Nathaniel was here when he came by to get it before the ball. It didn't go well. And now he's off chasing bunnies in the forest with Donald. He didn't want to go, I could tell," she said miserably, "but I didn't want to stop him." "But why? It looked like you had a moment, right before he left. Maybe if he had stayed, you could have—" "This is why." She pulled a note from her pocket. "Diedrich sent me this yesterday. My mother is coming into town at his behest. He's arranged for me to see her first thing tomorrow morning. She believes she's been invited to see a property my father is considering purchasing. I'm going to be waiting there, as a surprise. If Nathaniel knew—" She picked at the untrimmed threads on the baby's dress, shrugging. Something about the subterfuge felt wrong, but who was I to judge? They all thought my name was Emily. I said, "It's only been a few weeks since I last saw my mother, and we did not part on the best of terms either, but I'd give anything to talk to her. If I knew I could see her, I'd defy anyone who tried to stop me." I folded my arms. "So I understand how you feel, but it shouldn't be a secret. Nathaniel doesn't have to like it, but I do think that he should know." "You sound like my mother," Kate said wryly. "You should come meet her. I think you'd get along." "If she's at all like you, it would be hard not to. But Zan said Molly used to work in the fish market on the waterfront before getting hired in the castle. Maybe someone there could tell me more about her beau. Might even be able to get a name." "No magic this time? No seance?" I shook my head. "The only thing I've been able to achieve with magic is to make things worse." I looked at my hands, dotted with tiny cuts in various stages of healing. "I'm going to try another way." "Diedrich has a home on the waterfront. It's where I'm going to meet my mother tomorrow." She brightened. "We can walk there together." We left at the break of dawn, watching the sun send streaks of soft pink across the sky as it rose. It was almost enough to distract from the muck left from the dead plants. The sour, sweet stench of rot hung over the entire city. As we approached the waterfront, Kate said, "Keep alert. In this district, it's easy to leave with empty pockets without spending a single copper." Here, the scent of decay was overpowered by the smells of fish and unwashed bodies and other less pleasant aromas. The shouts of haggard, sea-weathered sailors intermingled with the cry of gulls circling above. Kate pointed to a building on the eastern side, a manor of glass and gold, that overlooked the docks like a smug emperor. "There's Diedrich's place." She fidgeted nervously. "Time to go. How do I look?" "Beautiful," I said gently, "but your mother won't care. She'll just be happy to see you." Kate gave me a quick hug. "Wish me luck." "Good luck," I said, but she'd already disappeared into the crowd. I approached a stall constructed of gray timbers and old tin, near the ghost of a hard-bitten woman whose expression was a mixture of wary suspicion and open hostility. Small wonder. The back of her head was caved in. She sat on a barrel like a gargoyle, while a girl, a real girl, of flesh and blood, manned a display of buckets filled with drooping flowers nearby. I approached cautiously from the angle farthest from the ghost. That was one death I preferred not to see. "Lovely day, is it not?" I asked the girl. She gave me a nervous smile. "Perfect day for a daisy, Mum, if I do say so myself." "So it is. I'll take a few." I gave her 2 silvers, almost the entirety of my wages from Zan. She gaped. "No, Mum, I can't accept this. Not for flowers 2 steps from being compost. Curse this blight." "Keep it," I said. "What's your name?" "Elizabeth," she said hesitantly. "Most call me Beth." Beth. I'm trying to find out more about a girl named Molly. She was a housemaid at the castle, and I cleared my throat. She recently passed. Did you know her? Beth's expression clouded over. "I knew Molly. She used to sell chocolate and candy from that stall over there." She pointed across the way. "She was nice. I'm real sorry about what happened to her." They said she got her job as a housemaid to get closer to a man she'd been seeing. "I don't know much about that," Beth said. "I didn't know her all that well. We was just friendly." "You never saw a man frequent her stall?" "All sorts of men hung around her stall, miss. It's the way of the docks. Girls like me learn quick how to handle it." She flashed a gnarly-looking knife tucked into her apron pocket. "Men don't learn as quick. Takes a few pokes before they get that flowers is the only thing I be selling here." She paused. "Molly was of a softer spirit. She wasn't so tough as me. Sewed more on account of it, I think. But at what cost?" "What do you mean?" Beth fiddled with the coins. "Nothing, Mum. Just that Molly might still be here if she was better at telling the difference between the sheep and the wolves dressed up in their clothing." "Beth," I said slowly, "is there something else you want to tell me?" She shook her head, maybe a little too quickly. No, Mum. Just a little advice, maybe. Fish ain't been so plentiful as of late, so the fishermen are all in foul temper today. Best steer clear if you want to keep that skip in your step." She tucked the coins away in her dress. "With the exception of Firth, of course. He's in a fine mood. Caught himself a fugitive last night. There'll be a bit of gold in his future, mark it." "Fugitive?" I asked. "That man that escaped from the king's gibbets," she said. "First one ever. Poor bugger didn't get far, though. Firth found his body floating in the water down by the next port. They'll be bringing it up this way soon, if you want to look." "Thank you," I managed. The din of the docks, the smells, the bright light of midday, my happy feeling at finding Conrad's toy, all were suddenly dimmed and deadened. I thanked Beth again and stumbled into the narrow alley between 2 dockside buildings, where I wrapped my arms around myself. "It isn't Thackeray," I told myself. "It can't be Thackeray." But it was Thackeray. I knew it before the body was paraded past like a prize buck, because his spirit preceded it, dripping and bloated, midsection punctured a half-dozen times. Thackeray was dead, and with him my last hopes of rescue. We regarded each other for a split second, and then he grabbed me. My shriek was lost in the sounds of the dock. He'd been camped out in the woods. Someone had been following him. He'd heard the breaking twigs, the breathing, and whirled around and around, trying to catch a glimpse. I could hear the faintest whisper, "I am unseen. I am unseen." When his follower finally showed himself, it was to press a luniocyte knife into Thackeray's ribs from behind. Hot breath on his neck, an oily voice saying, "This is your last chance to save your life, old man. The king wants to know who's been selling you those invitations. Was it the same person who let you out of your cage?" "I can't say," Thackeray gasped as his knife pressed deeper, breaking his skin. "Does the king have a bastard somewhere, a child no one but you knows about? Answer." Despite all, Thackeray chuckled. "Everyone knows the king is as sterile as a ball of cotton. Only reason he had the one kid he got is because his wife asked the assembly to use magic to help her conceive. Took the work of the whole lot of 'em, too, I'm told." "You're useless," the man said, and pushed his knife the rest of the way in. Thackeray fell and rolled over, throat filling up with blood. The man nudged him with his boot and leaned down close. "Send my regards to the other side," he said, before stabbing him with his luniocyte knife again and again and again. I came out of the horrid vision with tears running down my face. Thackeray was already gone. He'd done what he meant to do. He'd shown me what he wanted to see. The face of his killer. Diedrich Corvallis. I dropped my half-dead flowers and ran. The manor was built dockside, but it was cut off from the teeming life that pervaded the rest of the pier. I ducked under a gate, struck by the emptiness. There were no people here. None. No servants or sailors or sound but the hollow thunk of my shoes on the pier's timbers. I let myself inside, thankful it wasn't locked. The house was a maze of golden chandeliers and marble columns, but empty of furniture. "Kate," I called softly, timidly, and the sound ricocheted around in the vaulted rafters. When it faded, I heard another sound. Voices, a man and a woman. "She's up there," I thought, and I dashed toward the grand circling staircase, taking the steps 2 at a time before stumbling breathlessly out onto the top floor. I landed in a huge antechamber painted to the ceiling with a depiction of a terrifying, fiery-winged Imperia descending from the heavens and touching down to earth. Fire and water and stone and storm and forest were shown to be colliding around her, while streaks of blue-white light jigged out from the collision point. This was a sanctorium, not unlike the one back home in Renault. Beneath a monstrous illustration, there was a door. It was dark, but there was still enough light to see that the entire left wall was made of ruched velvet curtains. I could hear voices on the other side. "The crown jewel of the whole place, where a lovely, pious woman can come to rest and restore her spirit, basking in the light of the great Imperia. This is the part of the house I'll miss the most." "You saved the best of the tour for last, I see," I heard Kate reply. "Your home is very impressive. I can hardly believe you sold it when you seem to love it so much." "I wanted to collect the proceeds of my investment before property value declines within the city." A soft chuckle. "I have reason to believe that such a downturn is imminent." "Always one step ahead, predicting the future," Kate said with a polite laugh. "Do you also happen to know when my mother will arrive?" I peeked through a break in 2 panels to see Kate and Corvallis alone in the enormous inner sanctuary. It was at least 6 times larger than the one back home in Renault. He took her hand and pressed it to his lips as her smile froze on her face. "Now that we're in the confessional, I have a confession to make. Dear Catherine, your mother isn't coming today. I'm sorry. Something came up for her, and she wasn't able to make it." "Oh," Kate said, visibly deflating. "Well, thank you for the tour of your lovely home. I'd probably better go." "Back to a husband who mistreats you?" "Excuse me?" "I've seen it, Catherine, firsthand. The irreverent way he speaks to you, the way he lords himself over you, not to mention how he's forced you into subservience, working for others when it should be you going to balls, so the rest of the world can marvel at your beauty." He stroked her cheek. "It is my greatest folly, letting you get away." "I'm sorry, Diedrich," Kate said, "if I've given you the wrong impression." "It would be easy to undo." He continued as if he hadn't heard her. "The marriage, so obviously performed under duress, can be annulled. And as for the whelp, no one of importance even knows about it. Once it has been delivered, it can be given to a decent, Imperia-fearing family somewhere, or to an orphanage." Kate hit him, her hand whipping so fast across his face that it knocked his head to the side, revealing a series of scratches under his hair, by his ear, the ones I'd given him just after he'd killed Molly. He touched a hand to his lips, and it came away with blood. "Don't be stupid, Catherine. I'm trying to save you, to give you a chance. A lesser man wouldn't even consider taking up with you now." She raised her hand to strike him again, but he grabbed it before she could land the blow. His handsome face was drawn into a sullen pout. "Oh, Catherine, you're breaking my heart." He pulled her against his chest and took out his lunacite knife, nicking his own hand with it before pressing it against her neck. I grabbed the object nearest me, a vase, and dashed from my hiding place, but I was fast enough only to hear him say, "Know that I never wanted this for you. Nihil nunc salvetur." I slammed the vase full force against the back of his skull. Crystalline shards fell with Diedrich to the ground. My hand hurt. The force of the blow had reopened some of my cuts. Kate was holding her hand against her neck, eyes terrified. Diedrich was on all fours, trying to crawl over to us. His eyes were blazing with a malevolent fire. He grabbed at my skirt, and I brought my foot down hard on his left arm, the one I'd cut the last time I'd faced him. He cried out, but I'd already moved to his other side, laying him out flat with a kick to the back he'd bruised on the terrace stones. "Come on," I shouted, pulling Kate to the door and slamming it tight behind us. Kate was shaking, but she brought a candelabra to me, and I drove the metal shafts into the handle to jam it. Behind the door, Diedrich was laughing softly, almost politely. "You don't know what's coming," he said. "You don't know what will happen when I get out of here." Kate shrank away, and I slammed my hands against the wood. "You aren't getting out of here, you dog. The next time you leave this room, it will be in chains." The words surged from me, and with them, magic. What had Simon said back in Renault, hidden away in the sanctuary? Over time, and with practice, the more instinctual and accessible magic becomes. When I stepped back, my bloody handprint remained on the door like a promise. That is the end of chapter 24. I will see you next time for chapter 25. Goodbye.